Hey guys, Dan here, and once again we're over Zoom with our buddy Tim. Hi Tim.
Hi, everybody.
It is time once again for Dan Does Disney. The last couple we were live and in person, but schedules didn't really allow us for that this time, so we're going to talk over Zoom and have a good time.
Yep. Good times always. Talk about Disney movies.
Yes, and this one is a particularly interesting one because it's from a popular book. It's got the Jules Verne pedigree. It's one of Haley Mills' movies, but I was not really aware of its existence. Were you?
No, this whole era of early Disney live action movies, I was not like, I've heard of movies before. Like I heard of Absent Minded Professor because they remade it. I heard of The Parent Trap because they remade it. I heard of The Shaggy Dog because they remade it. They never remade this one. So it's one that I've never really heard of.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah, a lot of this era did get remade. The Love Bug got remade.
Yep.
That Darn Cat.
Yep.
But all right, but this one is In Search of the Castaways. I only have it on this double disc with Treasure Island, so but it's this side here. The Search of the Castaways. So this came out in December of '62. This was the final of the Disney movies in this year. We've done many from '62 so far, and this one wrapped it up. And unlike the last few, Tim, I actually have background information for this.
Yeah, there was a lot of information about it.
Yes, and it turns out this was a huge hit. This was actually the number 3 movie of the entire year. Did you happen to see the '62 list?
Yes, I saw the I didn't see the whole 62 list. I saw what was ahead of this, which were Lawrence of Arabia and The Longest Day, which I'm not familiar with. The Longest Day.
Yeah, I think maybe that's like a end of the world thing, but I could be just making that up.
Yeah.
But some of the other ones in the top 10 you'll definitely know. It beat out The Music Man,
Okay.
Mutiny on the Bounty,
Heard of that.
and To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, I wasn't aware that came out for some reason.
So those were all in like the top 7 or 8. There were a couple of others in there I never heard of, but yeah, so pretty big names, and this is obviously the biggest of the Disneys. There were no other Disneys in the top 10 last year. When we did 61, they had 101 Dalmatians for sure, and then 2 of the ones we did, I think maybe Parent Trap
and Absent Minded Professor, I would imagine.
Yes, that's I think maybe Absent Minded Professor was the top of them.
Maybe.
Or maybe it was Parent Trap. I don't remember. But yeah, so big year for them in '61. But all right, so this, like I said, is based on a Jules Verne thing. The book is called Captain Grant's Children. And this is the 3rd of 6 Haley Mills films in her 1-a-year contract. Tim, of course, will get into the background of the story here in a few minutes. But this film was originally just called The Castaways. It was devised by Disney directly as a vehicle for Haley Mills. She was under contract, and for whatever reason, this story came to Disney and said, "Here's the one from Mills this year," and he wanted to give her this sort of aging up on the screen, because we've seen her now as a young girl in Pollyanna, then about the same age in Parent Trap, but now she's becoming a teenager, and he wants to give her her first puppy love story in this film. So he did that. This was supposed to be her first kiss. But we won't actually see that until a later film, because I don't think they ever shot it. But in any event, it's not in the movie. If they did shoot it, it didn't make the cut. But they hired this kid, Michael Anderson Jr. They worked together in something, and I guess it does say here the script actually was changed, so they never filmed that. We'll find her first kiss in Moon Spinners, which is I think in maybe 60. Was that her one for 63? Do you know?
No, it's 64.
64. Okay, so we'll have to wait a couple of years to see Haley Mills' big first kiss. All right, so Peter Ellenshaw, the great matte painter. We've talked about him about a dozen times on the Dan Does Disney. He was given this Jules Verne book first to come up with some conceptual art for Disney to see what the pictures might be, what the, because he'll be the one doing the matte paintings. So come up with how we can make that look good. And that's sort of how they, got the ball rolling there. Jonathan Mills, Haley's younger brother, was doing a screen test, and they wanted to give him the role of Robert Grant, but Jonathan's mother said that we cannot have two kids in movies at the same time. So she told Walt that's a negative. So we got Keith Hampshire instead, who I don't know if he is in any other Disney movies. Tim, you always have that information.
No, he only has 3 acting credits to his name. He was the lead on the stage play of Oliver. That's how he got this role.
Yes, he was on that first before he came here. Yeah, and it's funny that he didn't do movies that long, because I found him to be much less annoying than some of the Disney kid actors we've seen.
Yeah, he does have a lot. I'll talk about him a little bit more, but he does have a long career in movies. It's just not as an actor.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, awesome. So yes, you will talk about that in a little bit. All right. So in April of '61, Disney said we're going to make this. Mills is in tow, and this guy Charles Lawton was supposed to be on as well. However, he ended up getting very sick with cancer. So he ended up dying actually, and Wilford Hyde White was his replacement as Lord Clontarf. And then Maurice Chevalier was always a part of this movie as well, and he ends up in the final credits. Now he has some Disney success later on that Tim will tell us about. But Tim, the reason I know who this person is, he was a silent film star, but I didn't know any of that. In like the late 20s, he came on the scene when talkies were like first getting started. But I know him because he guest starred as himself in one of the famous I Love Lucy episodes.
Oh.
So that's the only reason I really am familiar with him. And this is the first thing he did for Disney, but not the last, which you'll tell us about. But yeah, the one season of I Love Lucy, they went out to Hollywood because Desi was like he was the music leader of some big club out there or whatever. So there was a lot of like every 2 or 3 weeks, there was like some famous person that came on. And Chevalier was one of them. So, all right. So other than that, let's see. We've got the principal photography here at Pinewood Studios in England. A lot of these crazy things that you would think maybe in a different movie would be directly on the premises or in that town. It was all in a studio. The studio would later be home to the Harry Potter films and some of the James Bond stuff. So this has a big history in the movies. But the reason they did this was because it was in Mills' contract basically for alternating pictures between England and LA or Hollywood or whatever every year. So for 2 months, the Disney crew worked on building parts of the Andes Mountains. And then in 1 minute, they destroyed it for the earthquake scene that we'll talk about. And they built, all the flood things. Pretty much everything in this movie was constructed as part of the set. And you probably read this as well, Tim, that Haley Mills almost burned down her dressing room.
I did see that.
So that was put out. But yeah, she put some wet clothes on a space heater or something and it started smoking, and some of the people caught that. So, all right. But that's all I really have in terms of background, but certainly a lot more than some of the movies we've got lately, the Almost Angels and some of that. So Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about this movie and who is in it and their Disney histories?
Yep. So according to Wiki, this movie is freely based on Jules Verne's 1868 novel, Captain's Grandchildren. So I'm not sure I couldn't find anything about how like true to the book it is, but based on Wiki, not that true.
And the other 2 movies that were made from this book retained the title of the book, so they probably were a little closer.
Yes. So this we see Mary and Robert. They believe their father, Captain John Grant, is still alive after his ship went missing because French professor Paganel found a note in a bottle in a shark. They approach wealthy shipping mogul Lord Glenarvan or something like that, and his son John, and convince them to finance a search expedition that takes them halfway around the world, starting at the Andes Mountains of South America and then later to the coast of Australia. On their journey, they encounter an earthquake, a flash flood, an avalanche, a volcano, alligators, jaguars, mutineers, and cannibals. Can they overcome all these obstacles and rescue Captain Grant?
A lot of questions and a lot of peril.
A lot of peril. So we have the cast. Obviously, we have Haley Mills. She plays probably the main character of Mary. And because it is a kind of an ensemble piece, but I would say that she is more the main character than everybody else. We last saw her, as Dan said, in The Parent Trap. We'll next see her in Summer Magic, and then Moon Spinners in '64, where she will have that first on-screen kiss. And the movie that her and this Michael Anderson Jr. Were on before, they worked together in Tiger Bay. That was Haley Mills' breakout movie, which was the movie that Walt's wife saw that was like, hey, we want this girl to be Polly.
I remember that story now.
Yeah. So Walt actually approached Haley and was like, hey, we want to give you your on-screen first kiss. Who would you feel comfortable? And she was the one that picked Michael Anderson Jr. So it was all Haley Mills, and Walt was just making her feel comfortable. And then obviously that got cut, as Dan said. We have Jacques. Jacques Parnell is the French professor. He's played by Maurice. How do you pronounce it?
Maurice Chevalier.
Chevalier. He's in one other movie live action of Disney that I could find, which is Monkeys Go Home in '67. But then he also is a famous singer, and he performs the title song for the 1970 animated movie, The Aristocats.
Yeah, in addition to his early silent film work, he was really a well-known 30s singer. Like Isn't It Romantic was one of his big songs. Yeah. So yeah, known for his voice for sure.
Yeah, on his IMDb page, he has a lot of performer credits for music as well as acting. So I'm not sure if that's just using his songs that he had, or if he actually had him perform songs for the movie. We have Thomas Ayrton. He plays George Sanders. It's George Sanders plays Thomas Ayrton, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Adam reversed. And he was on Grant's ship. He's one of the crew members. He is an Oscar winner for supporting a role in the 1950s All About Eve. He surprisingly has third bill in this movie, but he doesn't show up until over an hour into this movie.
Yeah, I was trying to think if that ever happens. I mean, yeah, it's not one of these super long Disney movies. It's only about 98 minutes. So the fact that he's only in the last 35 minutes is weird, and he's third billed.
I believe we've had another, I forget what other Disney movie it was, but there was another Disney movie where it was someone who was third or maybe even second billed, and they didn't show up until about halfway through. I forget. But
you know what it was? Was it the one when we hated it, the Christmas one? Was it Babes in Toyland, where they didn't show up until they got to the factory, and then it was Ed Wynn, but maybe he wasn't that high billed. I don't know.
Tommy Kirk and Ed Wynn, I don't think were that high billed, but that was another situation where it was these famous people don't show up until later. I forget what movie it was, but it was something like that. So next we have, like you said, Wilfred Hyde White. He plays Lord Glenville. Oh, back to George Sanders. I forgot. He does do one other Disney thing. He is the voice of Shere Khan in The Jungle Book for the 1967 animated movie.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll
voice acting here.
Yeah, we'll hear his voice one more time. But Wilfred Hyde White, he doesn't do any other Disney movies, but he's most famous for My Fair Lady, the screen adaptation. He's like probably fourth billed in that. I don't know what character he plays. We already talked about Michael Anderson Jr., but he plays the son of the Lord. He plays John, the love interest, and they do have a puppy dog love type of thing, puppy love, but there is no on-screen kiss. And I couldn't really find any other things that he was really in that. He does have some acting credits, but nothing I recognized. You already talked about Keith Hampshire. He plays Robert Grant. Like we said, it was going to be Jonathan Mills, and he was actually offered the role. He got that role, and
Mama said no.
Yeah, mom said no, so they picked this kid from Oliver. He has, like I said, he only had like 3 screen acting credits, but he has 114 credits for camera and electrical department on his IMDb page. Most of them I saw were like still photographer, so I'm not really sure what role that is. So
I wonder if that's like when they're making a movie and they want a photographer on camera to like for People magazine or Life magazine or something, so they're not just taking stills from the actual film. I don't know.
Yeah, but
that's weird.
I mean, there were like tons of them, and there were some famous ones. There was like Willow was the one that I saw that I recognized, but there was a lot that like wasn't like B movies. They were like A movies.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we have Wilfred Brambell. He played Bill Gay. He was also another member of Grant's crew that they encounter. Famously, he's in the Beatles' Hard Day's Night. And he'll be in one other Disney movie, The 3 Lives of Thomasania, which I believe we talked about many times already.
Yeah, there must be a lot of big people in it.
I don't know if they're big people. It's just recurring Disney people.
Yeah, big Disney people anyway.
And that is, I put 63 on here, but I don't think that is a 63 movie. I think that's a little bit later. And then we have Jack Willem. He plays the infamous Captain Grant that they're trying to find. No other Disney movies, but he was in one of the other top 3 movies of the year. He was in Lawrence of Arabia of the same year. He's also in Patton, Jason Argonauts, and Clash of the Titans. So he's in a lot of movies that people have heard of.
He's like the Tom Holland of 1962. He's in the two biggest movies of the year.
Yeah. So the director, like you said, was Robert Stevenson. The last time we saw him was for The Absent-Minded Professor, and then we'll see him the next movie we do. We don't see him, but we'll see his work as director for Son of Flubber. So he did. I think this is going to be the first sequel that Disney does.
Son of Flubber is?
Believe so.
No, did we do Savage Sam already, or we didn't?
Savage Sam also comes out next year.
Oh, okay. I just keep seeing that on my shelf. Yeah, because I have that on a 2-pack as well with Old Yeller. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first of the sequels. Wow. And now they can't stop making them.
No, he'll do that. He'll do Savage Sam. He also does another sequel series, The Monkey's Uncle and Misadventures of something Jones, Merlin Jones or something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are a sequel pair as well. So he has like 3 of the first couple sequels that Disney does. But wow. He's
probably most known. You know what he's most known for?
Mary Poppins.
Yes.
But we've mentioned this probably before, but he does 19 Disney films in a span of 20 years.
Yeah, what a guy.
So we've already seen some of his work from Johnny Tremaine was his first one, Old Yeller, Darby O'Gill. So we've had some hits and some misses from him, but look for a couple more hits and misses, I guess.
That Darby O'Gill was very good.
Yes. The writer of this movie was Laurel S. Hawley. He wrote Swiss Family Robinson and Babes in Toyland.
Oh, okay. One pretty good one and one terrible one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's all the information I have about
All right.
the cast and crew.
Well, that's good. And see, we're already, I think, longer than our what the Almost Angels, and we haven't even gotten to our reviews yet.
Well, we had a lot more background information.
Yeah.
A lot more actors who went out to do different things besides three boys that weren't.
That's right. Yeah, that'll go down, I think, as the shortest one. All right, so Tim, I gotta tell you, I am very curious to find out what you think of this movie, because I did not dislike watching it, but I thought it was pretty bad, but like I enjoyed some things about it, like those two you just mentioned, Swiss Family Robinson and Babes in Toyland. This is definitely like in the middle of those, because one is up here, Babes in Toyland's like down here. This for me is like kind of somewhere in the middle, but like there's a lot of flaws about it, but then also some good things, and it's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, so I would probably agree with you. Swiss Family Robinson, I would say this is kind of similar to that, because Swiss Family Robinson, it's a classic, but it feels kind of like episodic at times, where it's like, oh, we're dealing with the animals, or like we're dealing with invaders, or like here's a side adventure or something like that. And I felt like this felt very episodic, where it was like, here's the Earth, here's this.
And that's one of the main flaws, is that not necessarily the episodic nature, I guess, but more specifically, this is reminiscent of a lot of the movies we've already talked about. Certainly, like you said, Swiss Family Robinson is up there. I think Treasure Island gets a few nods here. And then obviously, because they're both written by Jules Verne, you got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. There's some parallels there too. Yeah,
but I feel like the things that they did were kind of unique. Some of the effects were good and some of them weren't good. I don't know how. I think the best sequence was the avalanche rock slide thing where they were going through. It was kind of hokey and corny as well, and you had to spend your disbelief a lot for this movie. But I did think for 62, I thought that was pretty good for 62.
Yeah, that part was like okay, but like one of my biggest flaws in just watching the movie, I guess, or sort of the behind the scenes stuff is, this Peter Ellenshaw. We've talked about him so many times. I already mentioned him. He's known for his brilliant matte paintings and the beautiful looks of these movies. And the matte paintings themselves were pretty good. A lot of the things, like when they're climbing the mountain, or okay, maybe we don't know this is a studio, but some of the model work and the sort of the terror elements, like when they're going down in the ski slopes and stuff, I mean, it looks so bad. Even if we're saying, okay, this was 62 and what, it looks horrible. Some of the worst Disney effect work I've seen, especially what, we mentioned Darby O'Gill already, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Like, I mean, this is embarrassing.
Well, I will defend that scene because I thought it was kind of unique and cool. Because you can't really use his matte paintings for like that type of tracking of like these models, because usually his matte paintings are for like, hey, here, you have to put it in front of a glass. You can't have like a moving stuff like that.
But I guess my point would be, have him do the matte paintings, and that'd be great. But maybe hire somebody else that has some other experience with, like, for example, there's scenes, I'm trying to think of like old sci-fi movies like The Time Machine or The Day the Earth Stood Still, that had models and stuff that looked far superior to this in the same basic time frame in the late 50s, early 60s. And then like the Condor coming down like that. look, I guess in 62 it looked kind of cool, and maybe we try to look at things from a lens of, okay, how did this look in this? But I think even in that era, I think it probably looked bad.
Well, the one that I did, the worst one was the Condor.
The Condor was but it was part of that scene. So it was like you had the bad Rocky slide and then the Condor right afterwards, like in the same part.
Yes. But I do think the flood was good. I thought the flood was good.
Flood was good. It was the lava and the explosion at the end is like, okay. I didn't necessarily hate it.
Yeah.
But think about how they made 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at this point, what, 8-9 years before? What year is that? Like 54 or something?
Yeah.
I mean, and that was, I mean, they even shot, I guess, most of that underwater. So maybe we're comparing apples to oranges here, but I don't know. In one sense, you could say, okay, well, this seems to be more of a movie for kids as opposed to, say, Bon Voyage and Space. What was the Moon Pilot? Some of the stuff he's been doing lately at Disney that lately, as in like the rest of 62, that were maybe more adult. So, okay, maybe since this is geared more towards kids because of Haley Mills and everything, but even still, I just thought it looked so bad, some of the stuff.
I do think some of it did look bad, but I kind of will brush it off as 62. And yes, you said 20,000 Leagues was really good, and that was a couple years before. But they had a sub, and they had the underwater stuff, and some of the underwater stuff wasn't the best underwater stuff. But it was cutting edge for the time. But
yeah.
Other than that, they had some stuff on an island. They weren't climbing the Andes. They weren't doing rock slides. I think the problem with this movie is probably the source material and the stuff that they chose from the source material was probably more than what they could realistically do in a good way in 62.
You could be right on that. Maybe Walt was like, let's go all out and choose the most exciting and, death-defying things that we could maybe put on a screen. I mean, look, obviously it worked. It was the number 3 movie of the year, and look, when we look back, I mean, we'll be dead, but when people look back 60 years from now at the Fast and the Furious movies, I'm sure they're going to be like, well, this is garbage. How was this so successful? So obviously, look, they made money on it. It worked. But compared to some of the other things we've seen, I just thought it looked very shoddy. But you are correct. The paintings worked. When they're climbing the mountain, I believed it, even though I knew they weren't there.
Yeah.
So
and
I'll give them that.
And like, anytime we see a movie like in this era where we're like, oh, when they go to green screen, it's like, we're like, oh, they go to green screen. It's easy to pick at. Like, oh, okay, here's Toby Tyler. And it's like, they're doing all these stunts with like the horses and stuff. And then they go to a shot of them just riding on the carriage. And it's like, obviously green screen it. Like, it's so obvious. So anytime that they go to green screen and here, it's so obvious compared to his matte paintings. So I just think they had to overuse the green screen. And that's probably why it does look bad at times.
Yeah, that could be. All right. So that's certainly one of my huge flaws. I would say the other one really is just sort of the that it's picking basics of certain other movies, like I mentioned. Especially like the whole what's his name? Ben Gay? Or no, not Ben Gay. What's his name? Something Gay.
Bill
Gay. At the end of this movie, the last, third, whatever, Bill Gay, this scraggly guy, shows up and he's, long haired and crazy, and he's an old sailor. And it was like, well, this is just like Ben Gunn from Treasure Island, same initials, even BG. And he showed up at the end of that movie looking kind of this. It's like, so that was my other big negative, is it seems like this is a lot less original than some of the other stuff we've seen.
But those are both Jules Verne, right?
No, Treasure Island wasn't.
No, one's that's Robert Stevenson, right?
Yeah, Robert Louis Stevenson. So that was a different person. Yeah,
So
the parallels to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I'm like, all right, well, they were both Jules Verne, so I guess I'll give it that. But like that was kind of on the nose. But look, all right, so here's positive too.
source material, maybe that is the one of the few things that's not freely based off the book.
Well, that's the thing there, right? We, freely from the book. We don't know what he picked and chose from the book. He could have changed whatever. But all right, so here's positives because I've harped on it enough. I said this was an okay movie, so let's hear some positives. I think Haley Mills and Maurice Chevalier have a great sort of father-daughter type chemistry. I think they're really good on the screen together. And also, she has good chemistry with the boyfriend. So I like that they're aging sort of with her because, like I mentioned, she's so young in Pollyanna, even though it's only a couple years before. But I feel like in this day and age now, the 2020s or whatever, or the 2010s, they keep these people, 5 years younger than they are for years. I'm sure you probably just saw my TV review about the girl from Plainfield, where they have Elle Fanning playing the same age she did 10 years ago in Super 8. So I do think it's actually pretty groundbreaking that they're aging her up with these movies every year.
Yeah. I would say probably I thought all the acting was good. I mean this Keith Hampshire who doesn't act anymore, like I thought he was good as the brother. I don't know. I thought the Lord was good. I thought all the acting was good. I think that was probably the strongest aspect of this movie was the acting, and he didn't really have a weak link in there. He didn't but all three of the younger actors held their own.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like you mentioned, Haley Mills is pretty much the star of this movie, I would say. But like you also mentioned, it is kind of a big ensemble. And so far, she hasn't really done one of those. I mean, she was the title character in Pollyanna. She played 2 main roles in The Parent Trap. Yeah. So we haven't quite seen her yet be part of an ensemble. And I do think it worked here.
Yeah.
So that was a positive. All right, what about the music? So we've got 3 main songs here. We've got Let's Climb, which Chevalier sings, and then you've got Castaway, which was the like the acoustic guitar one that they sing at the campfire or whatever. And then Enjoy It is the one that comes later. I forget who sings that one even.
It's kind of like they're all singing that. That's
is that everybody? Right.
That's when they're talking about how like they're in the tree and they're like, oh, life is hard, but we can enjoy it. And then he's making the egg, stuff like that.
Yeah. Sherman Brothers again.
Yeah.
We've seen them many times. Look, I wouldn't say these are their best songs. I think, they were okay. I don't know that this needed music. I do like the Let's Climb though.
Yeah, but I think like it was kind of like the quirkiness of the professor character. Like he just seemed like he was one of those guys that kind of just like likes to sing, and that's his part of his character. Because he was very quirky.
Yes, he was, which I think worked for the movie. It added some humor.
Yeah, and I thought the Enjoy It song where like he starts a song and then Haley Mills joins in, it kind of bonded that kind of like that father-daughter relationship that they had. I thought it led to better character development between the ensemble and how they gelled together.
Yeah.
And I will say these songs are a little bit of a step up from the last time we heard some Sherman Brothers songs, which were Legend of Lobo.
Yeah, those were, I would say, not good, on the not good end of things. We are going back, though, on this one to the Native American hate and all of that stuff, and their cannibals and all of that. We hadn't had a few movies with that lately.
Well, the cannibals weren't Native Americans. They were somewhere off Australia.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, they were just island dwellers. It wasn't specifically Native Americans. This one had Native American that was like more of the that one guy in the Andes who actually helped him out. He shot the
Yeah, he
condor.
was nice. I liked him.
He shot the condor and saved the little boy from the giant condor.
Okay, I thought because of their attire, I guess I thought they were supposed to be Native Americans.
No, that was on the somewhere in Australia. So
Okay, I guess that makes sense because it's not like it takes place in America, but it just the way they were made out. I don't know. All right,
they
well,
were the indigenous people of the land of some small island. And
yes.
yes, cannibals, not a great thing, but I imagine that's something from the book. I imagine they just were like, here's some cannibals. It seemed important for the story.
Very important for finding the dad and the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I'm in the middle on this. I had fun watching it. Like I said, I enjoyed watching it. I get it, but I also understand why it's maybe not talked about that much. It doesn't look that good by today's standards, compared to, I guess we had talked about Absent-Minded Professor probably being in black and white partially because it was easier to hide the effects and stuff.
Yeah.
But I could see why a movie like that, or Shaggy Dog, or The Love Bug, or even The Parent Trap, because we loved the split screen and stuff in that. Whereas that, would stand the test of time for decades to come. I think maybe this one does kind of look a bit cheap by today's standards.
Probably, and I think it's because of the ambitious nature of this movie. I think they got a little too ambitious for 62, and they did what they could, and it just wasn't that quite Disney magic that they somehow managed to pull off for the Absent-Minded Professor and the Parent Trap, where they're just like, because even with the Parent Trap, they were like, oh, we're just going to have a couple scenes with the two Haley Mills, and they were like, oh, you were able to make that look good, and then they just ordered more and more and more.
Yeah,
don't think that was this. That was like, hey, we already have so much more. How can we get it done? Type of thing.
Well, and the joke's on us because it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't backfire or anything. So I think critically it was a little more mixed at the time, but yeah, audiences seem to eat it up.
Yeah, I think it's a good family movie for 62, and to compare to 20,000 Leagues on the Sea, I don't think that was a family movie. I think if you took your little kids to see that, they would be bored watching that movie. I think they would actually be entertained with this movie.
Well, and like I sort of mentioned that or hinted at earlier, in 62, Disney was all about the sort of more adult features. And when we think about Bon Voyage, or we think about even Lobo, or Almost Angels is about kids, but it's also about opera. It's not like it's not like a fun family romp like Disney used to bring us. I guess of 62, this might be the only one that is.
Yeah, maybe Big Red, a little kid would be interested in, because you have a kid making a bond with a dog, and the dog doesn't die, so they're not crying out. But still, that's kind of like a drama. This is kind of like almost it's an adventure movie. It would be like in the 80s going to watch the Goonies. Like, I feel like this is the Goonies of the 60s.
Yeah. Or Jungle Cruise today. Yeah. All right. Well, I think my grade is still what it was going to be, but you've made some points here. I think of all the ones we've watched, this one holds up some of the least. But again, it was enjoyable to watch. So my grade for this is a C+.
I give it a B-.
Okay. That's pretty close.
Yeah, I will say yes. The effects, the look of it do not hold up for the time period, but it was a hit in the 60s, so I imagine they were kind of used to that. If you go back and look at like the stop motion animation of like Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts, like, it looks so fake, but people still love it. I think people these days could watch this and still love it and have fun. If you can have fun in a movie, I think it should be in the B range, B minus.
All right. Bad lip syncing too in the songs. Tim, very bad lip syncing. What can I say? Maurice Chevalier, he was more known for his records than his, lip syncing on video. All right. Well, so
in water at the same time. I
no, when they're going up the mountain.
Oh, that one. Okay.
All right. So that's it for 62. We didn't mention this, but this is another one that's not on Disney Plus.
Yes, and I don't see why it's not. I
don't either.
They could remaster it and probably make it look a little bit better than the DVD quality, and maybe you wouldn't hate it as much.
That is a good point. Yeah, they should have some sort of like classic adventure tab or playlist or something on there where they could put Treasure Island, Swiss Family Robinson. I think this could fit in with those.
Yeah. The only one they have of those is Swiss Family Robinson, though. So they didn't even...
No, it's weird. It's very... Wait, do they not have Treasure Island? I forgot that.
Maybe they did Island.
I forget. They keep...
No, I think that I Treasure... I don't think you had to give me the DVD for that one.
Okay.
We just
all right. So in 62, you always have the list. So in 62, you mentioned the next couple ones we're doing, but we know Son of Flubber for some reason is not on Disney Plus. That's bizarre.
So you're looking. So 63. You want 63?
All right.
So we start with Son of Flubber, not on Disney Plus. Then we go to Miracles of the White Stallions, not on Disney Plus. Then I believe it's Savage Sam, which is not on Disney Plus.
Okay. These 60s, the early 60s, they had some, but now early to mid 60s, they're sort of forgetting.
And then I believe it's the Haley Mills one after that, which is Summer Magic, not on Disney. And then
so a whole nother host not on Disney Plus. All right, well, usually Disney Club has them. If not, we'll rent them. Usually you can still rent them if they're not on Disney Plus from Amazon or something.
Well, I mean, we're talking Son of Flubber, and Savage Sam, which I believe you have on there. But imagine they would have Summer Magic, a Haley Mills one, available from Disney Movie Club.
I would think people love a good Haley Mills.
Yeah, maybe not Miracles of the White Stallions, which I don't know. But the last two of 63 would be The Incredible Journey, which is on Disney Plus because that was remade to Homeward Bound. And then it's finally another animated one. We end the year of 63 with an animated classic, The Sword and the Stone.
Oh, okay. Wow. So Joe, I guess will return for that. We haven't had him on a Disney in many, many months. 101 Dalmatians, I guess, was the last. So, all right. Well, that's it. Thanks everybody for joining. Tim, thank you as always.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to watch some Disney movies.
Yeah, we'll see everybody next time. Bye.